Hi guys, I'm Danny, and I started a Sunday gym because I've noticed lately that people tend to go to colleges and universities without actually knowing why they're there. And afterwards, starting jobs that are unfulfilling. So I'm interviewing different professionals to see what they have to say and share their knowledge and experience with you. I hope you enjoy it. Right on, Debbie, thanks for being with me. How are you doing today?
Doing fine. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Well, thank you for being with me because you have a lot to share. The program will be focused on three main questions. What do you do for a living? How did you get there? And how did you knew that this was the way to go? So tell us what you do for a living, please.
All right. I make my living as a lawyer. I work with youth organizations, advising and defending them. And then in the rest of my life, I raise other people's kids. I've been a foster parent and a step parent, and so those two pieces of my life really they come together in my legal practice.
I'm pretty sure they are. I don't know how things are in the United States, but here in Europe, at least where I'm here, southern part, you have
Right.
three professions you cannot, really skip much when you're in the university. Engineers, doctors, and lawyers. Those are the three professions because like I graduated finance and accounting and management.
Right.
And I was not only working during that time, I almost didn't participate in almost any lectures, but we were actually encouraged to work, to understand
Ah,
this, to
right.
and I was working as a bartender, so a lot of my professors made sure I was working there. They
Yeah,
were there
very
every day.
definitely.
You skipped lectures. Don't we have lectures right now? What are you doing here? Right. Well, pint of Guinness and two light one. So yeah, it was like that. But all jokes aside, those three professions are very important if you want to have a really good, stable, civilized society. And it's admirable what you're doing. So I'm going to have to, ask you about both aspects of your life.
Right.
Were you walking the street one day and you decided, like, let me be a lawyer and help other people with their kids, or did something else lead to that?
Well, it was a couple of things. One
Oh,
was
I'm
when I
sure.
was yeah, I started working with kids in youth programs. Gosh, when I was a kid, we're helping my parents with
Okay.
they did a lot of what we call in the UK, the United States. Back then, we called it working with at-risk kids. They did a lot of work through their church and through church related organizations. And so I just got involved working with them, doing that from an early age. And so that became just sort of part of my life and part of something that I did. Then when I went to university, I discovered the debate program and the intercollegiate debate competitions, and discovered that my tendency to argue with people could be a skill set and not a character flaw. So I fell in love with the normal process of debating and discussing and analyzing and playing with ideas. And when I graduated from university, I got a job as a social worker, again, back to that working with kids sort of thing. But after a few years, I burned out. I was just I
Yeah, I
was
can
dipping.
imagine it's not an easy profession.
No, it is not, and I was dipping out the ocean with a teaspoon, and decided that I wanted a little more um, intellectual challenge, and so I retreated to law school. The law school seemed to be sort of the next extension from my love of debate.
Mhm.
So that was it was a combination of I still wanted to work with kids, but I was just overwhelmed. I needed to do it in a more limited capacity, and wanted to spend most of my waking hours um, doing what I really enjoyed doing and what fit my personality, which was playing with ideas and arguing about them.
And that's one of the reasons you're actually a really good example for the program and everything, because w when you decided to go to law school, you were actually already an adult and you knew yourself.
Yes.
It wasn't a spontaneous decision. It wasn't just something that you saw one day and you decided you not to go with. And this kind of leads me to the third question. The main reason I created this whole thing. I'm sure you've seen, especially you working with so many children and being in their field, you know how people just tend to go to colleges and universities because they
Yes.
have this idea, like once I have this piece of paper, my life is set. That couldn't be further from the truth. Maybe
No.
it was true at some point around 40 years ago, and I'm not sure that even then was exactly like that, but a lot of people, tons of examples, they just grab the first thing that's in front of them and they kind of they graduate because it's ridiculously easy to graduate most of the universities now, and they start working something that's obviously not for them. And
Right.
you have this internal feeling of not being fulfilled, and it kind of tortures you. And at some point, this can turn into a very big problem. And I'm sure you probably have seen, such examples. And
Um, yes.
yeah, go on.
So, well, I've advised a lot of my kids. First of all, don't necessarily go to college and university. It's not an automatic thing. It's a good thing, but you need to figure out if you want to do it. And so the second thing I've always advised my kids is take some time off. You don't necessarily have to go to college straight out of in our system. It's high school here in the
Yes, you
United
can.
States, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Now, for me, I was young when I graduated from high school because I had advanced rapidly in back then you could do that, and so
And now you
I
can.
was
Yeah, I
yeah,
did that too.
I was too young to get a job. So
I was
going to
in college
college
at the age of
was
17. My brother was
right. So college made a lot more sense for me at that age. My sister, on the other hand, she did the same thing, advanced rapidly, graduated early, but she spent a year getting her, here in the States, we call it the licensed practical nurse. So it's one step below a
okay.
registered nurse. It was a year program, a technical program. She got her certificate. And then when she decided to go to college, she worked her way through college with a skill, and made a lot more money working at her job than I did at mine with just a high school diploma. So even if kids decide eventually to go to college, taking that time off and figuring out what they want to do and spending the time getting a technical degree, which is not a 4 year university. It's not as expensive, and it does not require the time commitment, or the loans and
Yeah.
other financial commitment that you have to have for a 4 year college. So I've seen a lot of kids start college and they make it 2 or 3 years through and then get distracted or run out of money or run out of interest. Um, and they would have been much better off spending those same 2 years in a technical program and getting some sort of certificate. And so I just advise a lot of my kids take some time off, figure out what you want to do, and then decide if you're going to spend the money. And and then the other thing that I would say is I always point out to them, I've paid a lot more money to mechanics over the years than I have therapists with master's degrees, for example. So, in fact, right now, even as we're speaking, I'm waiting for a call from a plumber because our hot water heater has gone out at the house. And when you're your prospect is to take cold showers for the next 2 days,
Yeah.
you're quite willing to pay a plumber quite a bit of money to
Oh yeah.
solve that problem for you.
No, I was before I got this place, I was living in an apartment in an old building, and there was some problems with the sink, and I was kind of new. I just went there and I talked to a neighbor of mine. I said, "You have like a good plumber around here?" He said, "Yeah, I'll give you a phone number." And I called him and yeah, sure, that's pretty standard for those buildings. Don't worry, I'll be there in 2 weeks. Ah.
Yes.
Well, I'm always polite. No matter what I hear, I'm just very polite. Yeah, sure, okay. Well, here's the address. Then I went back to my neighborhood, and they're like, 2 weeks? Are you insane? You lost your mind. I'm not waiting 2 weeks. Can you give me someone else? Like, well, no, this is like the only guy for the three neighborhoods because it's like that. So you have apartment
Yes.
buildings, and that's apartment building number one. The next one is number two. And when you reach to 100, 101, when you're about to hit 101, it starts 200. So there were like five neighborhoods because there were like 500 apartment buildings, and he was responsible for three of them.
Ugh.
Lord have mercy. He actually didn't cost me a lot of money. It wasn't cheap either, but it didn't cost me a lot of money. But and another thing, I don't think I have personally met anyone with student loan. I know that's a thing in the United States. We don't really
Right, it
get
is.
here because it's at least here for Europe, it's a bit pointless
Right.
because I don't know, I guess we can't accept it or something. But I graduated a private college. I was working as a bartender in an Irish pub, and my monthly salary was in 60% of my monthly salary was enough to cover the whole semester of a private
Hmm.
college. When I
Right.
went to
Right.
Denmark to to finish my master's degree, I was there. I mean, I was, I'm a citizen of the EU, so I wasn't charged. I was there for free. But I know that that's not exactly the case. In the United States, you have to, plan much more
It
ahead.
it depends. There are like in the EU, there are state-run universities where the costs are much lower. There are private colleges that where the costs are much higher, and then there are, gosh, about 30, 40 years ago, we started, well, it's more like 50 years ago, we started giving student loans. Well, not part, I actually, a long time ago, 70 years ago, the GI Bill came out for soldiers, where as part of their government service, the government
Yeah.
paid for former service members to go to college, and that sort of
Yeah.
started the whole. The government would pay for college, and it sort of expanded to be loans for people who had not served, but other people who wanted to. I actually got small loans for law school, and it worked out well. It was a government university. It was low cost, low loans, and the analogy I use is I came out with a bill that was the size of a car payment.
Very
So
good.
it was well within my budget. Now kids are coming out, and what has happened, and I think one of our former secretaries of education here, Bill Bennett, who's fairly well known in at least conservative circles, he said at the time, and events have proved him right, that when you put money, particularly government money, into something, the prices go up. And
Oh
sure
yeah.
enough, once all of those loans became available, the prices have just gone up. And it's a long involved story as to whether or not the money has been spent wisely. There's arguments that Most of the increase has been in administrative positions rather than actual professors or research or that sort of thing. And that's kind of outside the scope of our discussion. But the
Oh,
result
I'm happy to
is,
hear it. Don't worry. You have so much experience. It's an absolute joy to have you. Not to mention, I have a few side questions.
okay, but the result is that it's now much more expensive than it used to be. Well, of course, one of the things that happens when you push people to go to college, like we've been doing in the West for so long, is you get it's the law of supply and demand. The more people you have with
Yeah.
college degrees, the less valuable those degrees are. And
Yeah.
so and now you have big businesses like Google and Microsoft who they don't even care about college degrees anymore. They care much more about certificates and
Yeah.
experience. And so I think that college degrees they are not the they're not the investment that they used to be. And for kids who are coming out of college with um, not the equivalent of car payment, but the equivalent of a mortgage payment for a house, that's just it's absolutely crippling.
Wait,
You
is
know,
that expensive?
they'll never be able to get ahead.
But it's
So
like seriously that expensive, or is this like an
for
exaggeration?
some no for no for some law schools and for some high end colleges, you can come out with a monthly payment on your loans that equals a rental for your apartment, you know, or a payment on your mortgage. In the United States,
Yeah, that guy
mortgage
was
payments and
a
rental
real good
payments are
diploma. That diploma better set me for life for the next 9 lives. That
right.
diploma better be so good that when I go to the underworld, it will still be heavy in my pocket.
That's right. That's right. Well, and there are stories of parents who have co-signed loans for their kids, and then something tragic happens to the kids, and the parents still have to pay off the loan. So it's just
Yeah.
paying for going into debt for education used to be a good investment along the lines of yes, everybody needs a car to get to a job, and if you can buy a house and build up equity, those two things and education at one time were considered worthy investments. Education's not the good deal that it used to be.
It isn't. My father told me a story a while ago. Oh, his father, my grandfather, he died in 1988, so that was 2 years before I was born. And he told him, listen, study what you want to study, work what you want to do. I don't really care. It's your life, but learn how to fix a TV.
Yeah.
Everybody has a TV at home, and every now and then they're gonna need a technician. So learn how to fix. You remember those big TVs with the kinescope?
Yes, yes.
Debbie, when was the last time you heard someone fixing the TV now, that flat screen thing? I
I
don't even
know.
know if I'm pretty sure it's possible, but I'm not even going to entertain the thought. If I got two of those here, and if one of them's not working, I'll just throw it away, go solve
Yeah,
a new one, and that's about it.
it
So
it, it is cheaper to
yeah,
do that. So,
it's
but
a
there
huge
are some
approach.
things, yeah. So, but so the TV might not have been TV repair might not have been a good choice, but the principle of learning how to work with the real world and
Yeah,
actual things is very important because even in our information age and even in AI is going to take over a lot of jobs,
yeah.
but it will be a long time before AI is able to repair a hot water heater, or pump out a septic tank, or repair your car.
Oh yeah.
So you know, so there are certain things in the real world that will be much more valuable. Of course, even then, I advise my kids, the ones who want to be mechanics or electricians or whatever. I advise them, look, this is great, get your certificate, but while you're there, take some business courses, learn how to run your own business. You don't have to have a college degree for that, but you need the skill.
There's way too much wisdom locked within you.
I, a lot of mistakes that I've made and
Oh yeah.
I've seen made. You know,
I
I've I discovered years ago I'm much better. I'm good at the craft of being a lawyer, but it took a while for me to learn the business of being a lawyer, and I have had to learn a lot. My husband's been in his own business for 40 years, and I've just learned over sitting and talking to him. You know, mantras, for example. When your business is slow, you work on marketing.
yeah.
those those kind of things that you learn no matter what profession you're in.
About 9 years ago, because I've always been smart with my money. I don't spend unless I have to, which is
Right.
not a sexy feature, in today's world, but that's just how.
Yeah.
And about 9 years ago, I was going out with a girl, and I got along real well with her grandfather. That was the first time I did an investment. I bought two small apartments and a storage room. Because things here are like that, like a man is supposed to have have property.
All
So,
right.
because when the kids are grown, they're out of my home, but they don't have to pay the rent. Like so they have a place of their own, fairly close. But after 18 years, I really don't. I don't even have children. I don't want to see them after 18 years. That's how we are. And I told him about that investment. I was 25 at the time. I said, Danny, that's pretty amazing. Can I see your hands? Uh, yeah. Man, back then, hands look different. I said, those are hands of an office man. That's
Uh,
not of a builder. And those are not the hands of a homeowner. And he was pretty right. My ego got hurt a little bit when I heard it, but he
right.
was right about that. And I learned I don't know how to do, everything, but I know how to do the basic stuff in those apartments
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
now I'm renting them, and every time somebody calls, I pretty much know I pretty much know when they will call me about something.
Right.
So there is no such thing as a perfect building. The Buckingham Palace is not a perfect building.
No. No.
Yes, so it's always good to have that. Debbie, I have a fourth question. I never put it in the invitation because I just love the reaction. If you can give my audience one advice, my audience made of people that are sitting on a in a somewhere like, is this job for me? Have I chosen the correct university? What am I even doing? If you can give those people one advice, what will it be?
Think of failure as a learning experience and don't be afraid to fail. I think that was the hardest thing for me was to take risks and jump out and move to a new job or write books. You know, I have a couple of side gigs and writing books and the fear is what if I'm stuck with all of these books at my house and nobody buys them. um, well, that just means I need to write something different next time, or if I jump out and try change my legal practice. If it doesn't work, I go back to trying something else. And I think that is the most important thing we can teach our kids is that failure is it's not a character flaw. It is simply another way to learn. Um, I think it was maybe Thomas Edison who said, I didn't fail ever how many times, 10,000 times at creating a light bulb. I've learned 9,000 ways that didn't work to create a light bulb.
There was those paintings, I'm sure you've seen them, caveman, with the mammoths and everything.
Right.
And do you know the story about Picasso when he saw it?
No.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, it's been so long and we still haven't learned anything new in painting."
I love that.
Yeah, coming from him, that's quite a high praise.
That is.
And with
So
that said, Debbie, thanks for being with me. It was an amazing, tremendous experience and everything. Please send me all the links that you want me to put in the description below so that people can check
definitely.
them out.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Ah. Guys, I hope this one was useful. Please follow the channel on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Gap, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Ring the bell and all the good stuff. Have a nice week ahead, and I'll see you next Sunday.